I'm joined here today by a very victorious Ode Osbourne coming off the big knockout victory, a very quick one at UFC Vegas 19. What's going on, sir? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well.
We're glad to hear it. It sounds like you got back to normal life pretty quickly. Like some guys like to take some time off, but it sounds like you got right back into the thick of things.
Yeah, man. I'm actually working in school right now. On live. So, yeah, I felt like a week was my break from school, and now I'm taking a break from trainings. You know what I mean? So it's not that I got back into the quick of things. It's just that I was off on that end of the stick, and now I'm on again. And so that's how it is, man. And it's not like it's like a burden to me. I enjoy what I do.
And so, are you doing things purely on Zoom, or have you gotten to the point where things are starting to shift back into in-person learning?
No, it's Google Meet so far. Zoom,
Okay.
yeah, yep.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that tried different things. I know back when I was in college, they tried Microsoft Teams, which is probably the worst app they could have possibly used. So it seems like Zoom and Google and all that stuff, like it's a lot better for the interaction, the connection is a lot better too.
Definitely, man. And they even have like breakout rooms. You can do. There's a
Right? Yeah.
button now. It never used to have where you can like click a button and it shoot people to breakout rooms. And now you can just like click a button and boom. In Google Meets, you can just shoot everybody into a breakout room. You can design your breakout room.
So what kind of teacher are you online? Are you someone that decided to do it like I'm gonna do just like I was in a classroom, except I'm in front of a webcam, or did you kind of switch things up?
Well, actually, I'm an assistant, and so it's obviously I never thought nobody knew COVID was going to hit and this was going to happen. So actually, our teacher, Miss Bowman, she does ELA, English Language Arts, and so I just kind of right now I'm um, just overseeing the class while she is taking the kids into small groups and getting stuff done and making sure that they have what they need to do for what she lays out. She Miss Bowman is super hardworking, man. She gets it done, and those kids um, are lucky to have her, just like myself. And I watch her every day when she's teaching. And I'm like, man, she puts in a lot for those kids. Like she does these slides, she does, you know what I mean. And I just kind of, whenever they get lost, I help them outside. Like I catch them up. I make sure they try to stay on task and what she's doing and helping them get. We're both here and we're helping them get
Go,
here. Just
Mr.
kind of
O.
building them
Go,
up.
Mr. O.
See, they can't see or hear me, so it's funny that they just come on randomly and say that.
That the timing was perfect. How was it when you got back into school? Like, did everyone take like a moment to acknowledge like what happened over the weekend? Like, how did the big return go?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody took a moment and was just like, wow, because I feel like I shook up the world. But for me, I was just I just remained, I tried to stay grounded, you know what I'm saying? Because at this stage now, yeah, I've only had two fights in the UFC, but I feel like I've hit like a maturity in my presence, and I decided to be the captain of my own ship. You know what I'm saying? And now I have to be grounded, and I know it's the hype and stuff like that will throw you off, but you got to remain focused on what the target is, and we just hit that target on the bullseye. Now trying to get another target lined up. So I'm trying not to veer too far off on one side.
So, how did your social media and everything look when you logged back in? 'Cause I assume everything must have been pretty crazy for you.
Yeah, I was on airplane mode, and as soon as I took it off airplane mode, it was just like it was wild, and I was just like, oh, here we go.
I mean, it must have felt pretty good, right? Like you come off a win like that. Obviously, especially it's such a shareable clip, right? Like that quick of a KO, like you're gonna see it everywhere. It must have felt pretty good for a moment, and then start to get annoying when you can't use your phone 'cause it's constantly vibrating.
Yeah, for a moment, of course, it always feels good when people are celebrating something you did. It's always going to feel good. We're humans. That's what we do. We thrive off of attention, you know. But it's always important to know, just be aware of yourself. That's the most important part. As long as you're aware of yourself, you catch yourself. You got to catch yourself before you fall into the hole of like looking up the comments and reading all the
Yeah.
stuff. You got to be like, oh, you got to pull yourself back out the hole. You know what I mean? And just like, okay, take a moment, get back to reality. Because once you fall in, man, that downward spiral, you gone. You gone.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it for several fighters where they sort of hang on that one knockout and it's like the thing forever. And then sometimes it does stop you from moving on. And I
Yep,
don't want to say it stops you from being humble, but you get so excited by it that you forget that each new fight is no one's going to be looking back at that knockout anymore when you enter the cage again.
exactly. Yeah, you forget your drive, your hunger. You know.
And so for you, we hadn't seen you fight in a long time. The fight went so quickly. Is it as satisfying? Like obviously the finish is good, but there must be a part of you that sort of wish you could have had maybe a little bit more cage time.
No, man, that's fine with me, honestly, because I get to fight sooner. The faster the finish, you know what I mean. If I stayed in there longer, that means I gotta. They give you suspension. The longer you stay in there, the longer your suspension is. My suspension is only 4 days.
There we go. That's a yeah. That I mean, that's a very smart thing about that. It's a very quick fight. How many times have you watched this fight? Like, I assume with it being so quick, you've even watched it on accident, just scrolling through
Yeah,
social media.
yeah.
Have you gone back and watched it a lot?
Like I said, mostly on accident when I'm scrolling through stuff, and then I'll get like my ego will get up a little bit, and I'll click
Yeah.
it like, ooh, let's see what I did again, you know. And I gotta like pull myself back out the hole, like, oh, whoa, 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 hey, control your ego.
So, how do you look back on your performance that fight? I assume overall you must be pretty happy. Like when it's that quick, it's not like you can point out all these things you did wrong, right? Like, are you satisfied with your performance overall?
I'm extremely satisfied with my performance. Like I couldn't be more satisfied, you know. But at the same time, it's like I'm not happy yet, you know. I'm not like that. I'm still like let's like I said before on my interview, I want the belt. I came into the UFC to be a champion, and that's where my sights are. My sights are on the belt. And so, you know, when I won, I was just like, you know, I wasn't celebrating because it was like, all right, I got the knockout, but look, I want the belt. That's why I'm really here.
And so, walk me through the finish a little bit because I know some fighters they don't necessarily remember the fight just because they tend to black out a little bit. Some are in the zone, but it looks like in this situation he threw the kick, then you saw the opening and threw the punch. Kind of walk me through when you threw the kick. Like, at what point did you see the opening and realize like you had the opportunity to do something there?
Well, my coach Solo always says, you know, timing, distance, and speed, and angle. You know what I mean? Timing, distance, angles. Literally, that's all it was. And I was just, if you go back now, I'm gonna say this, and then you can go back and watch it. So watch the angles I was cutting him off on. I kept cutting him off, cutting him off. If someone's going shifting to your left and you cut them off, they have to do what? Shift back the other way. So you do it enough, you kind of box them in. You're almost initiating in a mental fight before you even throw any punches. So you're mentally trapping them into a box. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to, you know what I mean. And so I'm giving too much right now because my mom was like, "Dude, you be giving too much." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. I do be giving too much. So let me stop." But yeah, go back and watch that. You know, just watch the angle I was creating. It's not that was none of that was fluke. He threw it because he felt pressured, and then he wasn't in kicking range. He was in punching range, and so he felt pressured and he kicked, and I kind of, you know what I mean. It doesn't matter how the kick was. People are like, "Oh, if he threw that kick correctly, it would have gotten." No, if he threw the kick like correctly, I would have blocked it a different way. Like I knew there was no force coming up to it because he was not in kicking range. So all I had to do was just shift a little bit and capitalize off of the window I created.
Did you realize when that punch landed that that was going to be the finish of the fight? Like obviously you follow up when ground and pound, but a lot of guys have described that punch like when like okay I got him on that one.
Sometimes, like I guess I mean, I just got like when you hit the ground, I was just like, "Ooh, you mine now," you know, and I just kind of let loose a little bit, um, you know.
And so, I mean, what did this one do for your career? Like, I assume it must be big, right? Because I see everywhere I look, people are talking about, the UFC fighter that's a teacher getting the knockout, Jamaican UFC fighter. Like, I'm seeing everything, sort of all these articles made about it. Like, I assume that must have been pretty big for your career in terms of getting your name out there, even though the articles I mentioned, didn't put your name at the forefront.
Yeah, man, it's cool, man. Like I said, I try not to fall into the hole. I haven't really looked at myself on my YouTube, to be honest. I haven't really like even Googled it. You know, I just kind of I haven't read any article. I read one article, and this high school kid messaged me, and he wanted to do something for his high school paper, and I said, "Yeah, I'll do a Q&A with you." And so he wrote something down and he put it in his high school paper. That's the only article I read was some a high school kid. You know, because that means a lot to them, you know, and that means a lot to me. So I think kids are number one priority for me at least.
I mean, that must have been a pretty cool thing for him to be able to say that, he talked to, a professional UFC fighter coming off a big knockout like that. That must have been, the highlight of his time, writing those kind of articles.
Yeah, I would say so, and I want to give kids those opportunities. Like he went out there and he reached out to me and took the time to do that, and I was like, hey, you know what? I was in high school and I know how it is in school, so yeah, definitely.
So how was this Q&A compared to, some of the MMA media stuff? Because we know sometimes MMA media, you can do really good stuff. Sometimes it can be a little, how did he compare to maybe some of the guys that you're used to being interviewed by?
Well, it was written, you know what I mean? It was all just written
Oh,
questions. So
okay.
I just gave
Yeah.
him like a written answer and I wrote back. But yeah, a lot of the media stuff is so it's just so like I feel like it's like, oh gosh, okay. Well, so tell me about your favorite color, and so what is, it's so, I feel like it's so robotic sometimes and
Yeah.
monotonous. Where right now I feel like we're more having a conversation. You do a very good job of relaying questions. So, that's a skill that not a lot of people have, and I've gotten good at picking up on good reporters. You know what I'm saying, or good broadcasters, and you're pretty good at relaying questions where it's not like, so you changing your voice and
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, man.
Well, that means a lot, man. I do appreciate that. I think the key for me was, don't write down any questions. Do your research, come up with stuff, just let the natural curiosity take over. And I feel like that was the way to get the most kind of genuine interaction between people.
Yeah, and you're like having a conversation that way. It's not robotic. If you like write something down and you say exactly what it is that you wrote down, it's just like robotic. It's not from your soul or from your heart or who you are. It's just reading off of a piece of paper. So I get a lot of those where it's reading off of a script.
So are you guys able to tell when guys are reading off scripts? I feel like some people they
Yeah,
do it and they don't realize it, or they're like, nah,
yeah,
I'm pulling it off.
yeah, for sure. You can definitely tell.
So
It's not organic.
exactly what's the media schedule kind of look like for you for this one? Because I know especially you have a
Oh
good PR
man,
guy and everything. They're gonna hook you up with every outlet I'm sure you can think of.
yeah, they skip, man. Shout out to Ed. He is awesome. He takes care of all my social media, and he schedules me for a lot of things, and he books stuff, and that way I don't overbook, or he reminds me like, hey, just so you know, today here's your schedule of who you have to meet with, and so I'll add stuff to my schedule as well. But I really don't have to add anything. He does all that stuff, but I'll add stuff to it as well if there's like space, and just that whole team of radio, man, they do a good job of, there's marketing, there's all kinds of different stuff that they do. Each person has a job and does it and execute it very well.
I like that a lot. I like it especially if they have a PR guy. Like you see, whenever a fighter from Iridium gets the win, like he's gonna do the media tour, the MMA junkies, the bigger websites, smaller websites. So it seems like it's very good at keeping you guys in the news when you come off a big victory.
Yeah, he is, man. They're good at what they do.
So one thing I was curious about, coming back to the teaching thing, how tough was it for you as an assistant to sort of find your place doing things over Zoom? Because I assume like as an assistant, you're sort of going around the classroom helping in person, but over Zoom, you can't do that. You're just sitting there and you can't interrupt the teacher either. How tough was it to sort of find your role in that classroom?
It was tough at first. I didn't know exactly how it was gonna go, but the teacher and I have just great classroom chemistry, so it works because when she's in the small group, I'm in the whole group, and I can still talk to them and help them with stuff that they might have missed or texted during their lesson. They're probably watching this, so I gotta let them know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can only do so much. We have sites like Go Guardian that block off whatever it is they're doing on the side. It'll block. It won't allow them to go on anything else but what they have in front of me. But I know these kids, man. They got cell phones, they got iPads, they got second computers. Probably their sisters that they try to beat the system. Like kids are smart. Kids are smart. So my job is to, when they do that, go ahead and try to catch them up the best I can.
For sure. Yeah, I assume it's got to be close to impossible. Like they're just sitting there on their phones, cameras muted, mics muted. Like what can you do about that? Like there's nothing
Yeah,
you can do.
but at the end of the day, too, I understand sometimes because, man, we're in a social world. They're not used to this. This is not their environment. You know what I'm saying? This is all new. So I can't, I get it. I get it sometimes. You're always on the laptop every day doing this stuff. From like, I get it. So
But before we wrap up, obviously I'm going to ask you who you want next when you're going to return. That's how you finish these things. But one thing I am curious about, I'm seeing a lot of, sixth grade teacher is also a UFC fighter, stuff like that. Is that something that you want to intertwine, the fact that you're a teacher as well as a fighter, or is that something that you're trying to separate a little bit? Because I feel like it's going to be sort of something that's going to bleed a lot into each other in certain capacities.
I'm gonna pray on it and I'm gonna let God uh, choose my path and how that would play out. You know what I mean? I'm gonna put it in God's hands and let God decide what it is. I'm just gonna not think about that and trust.
There we go. I think that's the best way to go. Last one. I sort of gave you a preview, so you know it's coming. But ideally, when do you think you're going to return? And the big question: who do you want next?
If I can get back in there in 5 weeks, that'd be dope. My manager said I can, so we'll see what happens. Um, I would like to fight Felicio Figueiredo just because he just fought Jerome Rivera, and I watched that fight, because I was supposed to fight Jerome Rivera, and I watched him, you know, I watched him fight, and I was like, oh man, okay, this would be a fun fight. I was like, yeah, this would be fun. They like did it was like a stand up war, and I was like, ooh, he would be fun to fight. So yeah, and not just that, his brother is a champion, so I think that just you get to one brother by beating the other one.
There we go. Well, we all heard it here. It's an interesting call out and it's a very fun matchup. Well, maybe not necessarily call it, but it's a fun matchup for sure. Thanks so much for the time, sir. I really appreciate it.
Of course, man. Of course. You have a good one.